I acquired a ridiculous number of books in the month of April, but I absolutely love watching other people's book hauls because I'm nosy. So I thought you might enjoy to see mine as well. I have a couple of secondhand books. I have some books that were sent to me by publishers and authors, and then a shameful amount that I've also just bought with my own money. We have some Penguin Modern Classics, we have translated fiction, we have some new releases. We'll start with secondhand books, and please tell me how I managed to find this in a charity shop. This is literally a brand new release in the UK. It's like a £17 hardback, and I found it in an Oxfam for £6.99. And it is Rejection, which is a bizarre short story collection, I believe. It says it is an audacious and original novel in stories following a cast of intricately linked characters as rejection throws their lives and relationships into chaos. I've heard very mixed reviews about this. It kind of seems like a Marmite book. I've seen people who absolutely love it. They gave it 5 stars. It's one of their favourite books of the year so far. Then I've seen other people giving it 1 star and absolutely hating it. So I'm intrigued to see where I stand. When I saw this on the shelf in Oxfam, I was like, clearly someone hated that book. The fact that it literally came out about a week ago when I bought it, and it's already in the charity shop. But thank you for donating it because now I have it. Correct me if I'm wrong, I also believe this is the same cover as the US edition, which makes me really happy because there's been so many times where I've spent a ridiculous amount of money ordering the US version of a book just because the cover is a lot less ugly than the UK cover. So I like the fact that they've kept the same cover. The other secondhand book I got, which I actually got from World of Books, is Forgotteness. This is translated from Ukrainian, which is a language I have not read a translation from before, which is a shambles because in my 9 to 5, I support and work with a lot of Ukrainian people. So I felt like it was only right at some point that I read a book from Ukrainian. This is about two intertwining tales of two people who were born on the exact same day but a century apart. The narrator is dealing with a lot of anxiety and finds herself becoming fixated on a man who was a significant figure in the struggle for Ukrainian independence. I feel like this book is going to grapple with our concept of time and memory. This is a little bit of a longer book for me, but I do want to start reading some slightly longer books. Actually, that was a big fat lie because I just checked and it is literally like just over 200 pages. It just has very thick paper. Then we'll move on to a little handful of books that publishers or authors have sent me, and some of these I am so excited for. Please, can we take a moment for this absolutely insane cover? I am obsessed. It is beautiful. Go and take a look at the US cover as well if you haven't seen it, because that cover is actually wild. I can't believe that's an official book cover. It's crazy. Kind of here for it. This is about a woman who decides to take part in a clinical trial in order to become the best girlfriend possible. But it says that when reality comes into fruition, having an open heart and determination doesn't always lead to true love manifesting. I've got a feeling this is just going to be one of those books that is absolutely batshit crazy and is just wild and ridiculous, but in a super fun and witty way. This is just over 200 pages, and I believe it is Sophie Kemp's debut novel. I will be really upset if for some reason I don't like this book because the cover is just exquisite. I'm obsessed with it. I could cry knowing I have this book in my hands. This is the newest novel, Immaculate Conception, from Ling Ling Huang, who is the author of Natural Beauty, which was a beauty industry horror book that I absolutely loved. It's one of my favourite books of the past few years. I'm constantly recommending it, and I think most other people love it as well. It's always getting rave reviews. So when I saw that Ling Ling Huang was releasing another book ages ago, I was so excited, and I've been anticipating it for so long. And her UK editor very kindly offered to send me a proof that she had lying around. This is about Mathilde, who is a successful artist who is on the rise, and we have Enka, who is a struggling artist, and the two of them strike up a friendship. But as Mathilde's form of art gets more and more extreme and she's reaching new heights, Enka is desperate to keep her close. Enka marries a billionaire whose company is creating technology that can increase your level of empathy, and Enka thinks she can use this to absorb the trauma from Mathilde's mind. But as their codependency increases, the boundaries between Mathilde and Enka blur. Doesn't that just sound absolutely incredible? I already know I'm going to love this because Ling Ling Huang's writing is incredible. Her imagination is incredible. I would expect nothing less than a 5 star read from her. This is out in a couple of months in June 2025 in the UK. I'm not too sure of its release date in the rest of the world. It is described as a collection of stories about isolation and longing that mixes science fiction, speculative fiction, the uncanny. It has had a positive blurb from Bora Chung. She says, her stories force us to reconsider our reality, trace back our memories, re examine our lives, a unique experience. Bora Chung is the author of Cursed Bunny and Your Utopia, and I trust this woman's opinion with my life, so hopefully I'm going to love this. Then we have The Knowing by Madeline Ryan, who very kindly offered to send me her new book. She is the author of A Room Called Earth, which you might have heard of, and this is her newest release with an absolutely stunning cover. The blurb doesn't actually tell you a whole lot. It says, a brilliant new novel about the mess that comes before salvation. The Knowing is a day in the life of a woman who goes to work as usual while dreaming of more. Don't we all? Madeline Ryan is a Australian author, and judging by her previous book, A Room Called Earth, I feel like she is a master of commentating on modern day anxieties and modern day fears and what the trials tribulations are of living in a contemporary world. Final book a publisher sent me before we can move on to me being berated for the amount of books I have purchased is The Crying of the Wind from Pushkin Press. A little while ago, the publisher Pushkin Press started a Pushkin Press Classics collection, and they have very kindly offered to keep sending me the new releases in this collection, so I presume this is the latest one. From the blurb, this doesn't necessarily... What is going on with me today? From the blurb, this doesn't necessarily sound like a book I would rush out to read or rush to pick up in a bookstore, but I do have Irish heritage, so I am actually quite interested in to read this. It says, into the lushly green windswept landscape of the 1950s Ireland arrives painter Ethel Colquhoun. I'm probably butchering that name. She embarks on a tour of the island, guided by her artist's eye, her feeling for the world beyond our own, and her razor-sharp wit. My vision for this book is a very rainy day, sat on the top floor of a coffee shop, sat by the window with a gorgeous coffee and a pastry, hearing the pitter-patter on the window, and spending my entire morning reading about the beauty of Ireland. That's the vibe I'm going for. I have one book that I ordered online, and then the rest are from Amazon, and the one book I ordered online is Shy Girl by Mia Ballard, which, if you're into weird girl fiction, you have probably seen this all over the internet. Everybody is going crazy for it. People are saying it is the craziest book they've ever read, which is a very bold statement. So if this lets me down, I'll be very disappointed, but I am very excited and intrigued to get to it. The synopsis is, lonely, broke, and depressed with a serious case of OCD, Gia finds herself at crossroads when her financial troubles lead her to Nathan, a mysterious and affluent man who she encounters on a sugar dating website. Desperate for a solution, Gia is intrigued by Nathan's unconventional offer. In exchange for living as his devoted pet, all her debts will be erased. But the longer Gia is in the longer Gia is in captivity, the more animalistic she becomes. Hence the dog. Hopefully I will get to this one soon so I can report back on my thoughts and feelings. I'm always dubious when people say a book is the craziest thing they've ever read, because that completely depends on what they've read previously. But I've only heard good things so far, really, so I've got high hopes. I have two sections to my Waterstones haul. The first part is about twice a year, me and my best friend Tom go to Manchester for what we call a grandma day, where we just spend the day going around bookshops, drinking tea and coffee, doing little grandma activities. So this first haul is from that day out. And then the second part, my only excuse is that Waterstones, a few days after my Manchester haul, announced they were doing double stamps for the bank holiday weekend, which I should have expected. So I accidentally went out and purchased a good few more books. So all of these first few are from the Manchester Deansgate Waterstones branch, which is one of my favourite Waterstones in the country, I think. It's rather large, it's usually quite peaceful, and they usually have quite a good selection, and usually have quite a few books from independent presses. I picked up You Should Have Left by Daniel Kelman, which has been on my wishlist for a long time, and I actually already read this the other day. It's super, super short, and I loved this. I gave it 4 stars. This is about a screenwriter and his wife and their 4-year-old daughter, and they go to stay in a house in the mountains from Airbnb so he can settle down and get to writing and get away from normal life for a little bit. But when he gets there, he starts to realise that rooms aren't where he remembers them, and there are sentences in his notebook that he does not remember writing, and his sense of reality completely shatters. This is written in the format of his journal, which I actually really enjoy that, and it is super claustrophobic, super stressful and tense, but highly recommended. If you're a fan of the author Ian Reid, any of his books, I think you will love this one. We then have On the Calculation of volume number 2. The first one and the second one were both published on the same day. I've already read the first one because Faber kindly sent it me early, so I went out and purchased the second one. The first volume has been longlisted for the International Booker Prize this year, and I'm very happy about that because I loved it. And I don't normally read series because, as a literary fiction reader, it's very rare that we get a series of books. However, I believe this is going to be a 5-part series. This is translated from Danish. I obviously don't know what happens in this second volume, but in the first volume, it is about a woman and her husband who own a business, and she goes to Paris alone to purchase items for said business. And on the second day, she wakes up and realizes it's still the same date as the day before, and she is stuck in Groundhog Day. But these books don't take the normal path of a Groundhog Day story. It's not necessarily about her trying to escape for the most part. It's more about how she settles into this new weird way of living and how it affects her relationship with her husband. It is a beautiful story, and this author's writing is gorgeous. I picked up On the Clock by Claire Baglin, which is translated by Jordan Stump. This, I believe, is about the alienation of the working class. We have a young family where the father is tackling very demanding factory shifts, whilst the mother is a stay-at-home mom putting the needs of everyone else above hers. It's about social inequality and the exploitation of working class families. I'll insert a picture here, but the US cover of this book is amazing. It has a big burger on the front. I love it, but I do equally absolutely love this cover. This cover is the entire reason I saw it on the table in Waterstones and picked it up, because it is so simple but so eye-catching. And I feel like from reading the blurb, this image of a woman drowning is very fitting. Unless you've been living under a rock, you have probably seen that Penguin have released the Penguin Archives collection, where they're releasing mini books from authors they've published from over the span of Penguin's lifetime. I picked up 2, but I feel like one day I will end up owning them all out of pure impulse, because these are only $5.99 each, which makes it super tempting to just keep buying more and more. The 2 I chose were The Umbrella by Tove Ditlevsen, which is an author I absolutely love. I've read the Copenhagen trilogy and I've read The Faces. And this is one of her short stories. I believe The Umbrella is published within an actual collection of her stories, but this just has the one short story. But I'm super excited to get to that. And then we have The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. From James Baldwin, I have read Giovanni's Room and If Beale Street Could Talk, and I absolutely love both of them, and I've been wanting to get more of his books and hopefully one day read all of his work. And this is a super short one, so hopefully I'll get to this really soon. The last book I bought from Manchester Waterstones is The House of Dolls by Barbara Cummins, who is, I think, actually maybe my favourite author of all time. I've read a good few of her books now, and she is just a master at crafting characters. None of her books have a huge amount of plot, but they're still so captivating because of the way she fleshes her characters out. In every single one of Barbara Cummins' books, her characters just behave with a slight peculiarity, which is just always so intriguing. I don't actually know what this one is about. I know it's about Evelyn and Bertie, who are divorcees, and they move in together in Kensington in London. And I think it's just about the shenanigans they get up to. But I just know I'll love it because I love Barbara Cummins. Don't love this cover, however. There are still a couple more of her books that I haven't yet bought, but she is no longer with us. So when I've read them all, there will be nothing left. So I am really torn with either reading them all now because I am obsessed with her and I want to read them all, or savouring them over the next few years because I won't be getting any more books from her. The rest of these were pure impulse purchases because of the double stamps. I get drawn in by the double stamps every single time. I have 4 Penguin Modern Classics and then 2 Japanese translations. I recently read for the first time No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, which I know I'm late to the party, but I got there eventually and I did like it. I really enjoyed his writing style, but the book wasn't quite what I expected. I think for some reason I had it in my head that No Longer Human was going to be super weird, when it was actually more just kind of bleak and dark. But anyway, I do still want to read more of his writing. So one of my Bookstagram friends recommended The Setting Sun because it is one of his favourite books of all time. So I took that recommendation. It says that this powerful and tragic novel vividly paints life in a nation in social and moral crisis. Set in the early post-war years, it probes the destructive effects of war and the transition from a feudal Japan to an industrial society. Osamu Dazai, I actually can't speak today. Osamu Dazai died by suicide in 1948, but the influence of his book has made People of the Setting Sun a permanent part of the Japanese language. I finally picked up Revenge by Yoko Ogawa, who is an author I absolutely love. I think now the only book I've got left to buy is Hotel Iris. This is another short story collection. It says murderers and mourners, mothers and children, lovers and innocent bystanders, locked in the embrace of an ominous and darkly beautiful web. Their fates all converge through the 11 stories here in Yoko Ogawa's Revenge. I think my favourite Yoko Ogawa is The Housekeeper and the Professor. I read The Diving Pool last year and I liked it, but I wasn't a huge fan, so I'm hoping these short stories are a bit more intriguing than the diving pool. I think one of the reasons I love Yoko Wagawa is because she is brilliant at showing us the beauty in the world, but simultaneously showing us the really dark and cruel parts of human nature. Moving on to Penguin Modern Classics, there are two I picked up from authors I specifically was seeking out, and then two that I just saw on the shelves and thought were interesting. First one is The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. I have read two books from Muriel Spark. I've read The Driver's Seat, which I absolutely love and recommend to everyone all the time. And I have read Memento Mori, which I actually thought was quite dull and disappointing. So I'm intrigued to see how I feel about the rest of her work. This is about an unconventional school mistress, and I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of a comedy. It says that her glamour, free thinking ideas, and manipulative charm hold dangerous sways over the girls at Marcia Blaine Academy. This one I deliberately sought out as well. This is Territory of Light by Yuko Toshima, who was the daughter of Osamu Dazai. He passed away when she was 1 year old, I think. I do actually already have a book of hers, Woman Running in the Mountains, I think, but I haven't actually read it yet. But I've heard this is kind of her most renowned book. This is about a young woman who moves to Tokyo, gets herself a little apartment after her husband leaves her, and over the course of the year, we spend time with her as she grapples with the struggles of being a single mother. The Financial Times have described this as disturbing and dreamlike, which is everything I love in a book, so I'm hoping to really like this. And again, this is super short, so hopefully I will get to this pretty soon. If you recommend any other books by this author, please let me know, because I feel like I'm going to love her. This one is a super teeny tiny book. This is The Goalkeepers Anxiety at the Penalty Kick by Peter Handke. Never heard of this in my life, never heard anyone talk about it, but I just picked it up off the shelf because the title is obviously very intriguing. Um, this is about a once famous goalkeeper turned construction worker who commits a random murder without thought or regret as he wanders the streets from hotel to bar, cinema to tram stop, experiencing strange and violent encounters on the way. He finds himself and everything around him disintegrating. That sounds like my perfect kind of book. This is actually also translated. This is translated from the German by Michael Roloff. If you have read this book or have heard of this book, please let me know your thoughts and feelings because I know nothing about it. We are at the final book of this haul, so if you've stuck around this long, thank you so much. God bless. This is Turtle Diary by Russell Hoban. Again, never heard of it, but it sounds so depressing and heartwarming at the same time. This is about giant sea turtles that are trapped in very murky water in London Zoo, and a bookseller and children's illustrator, who are two very lonely people, end up coming together to hatch a plan to release the turtles. It says that as they come together to hatch this plan, their diaries reveal how they found their own lives changing in imperceptible and quite unintended ways. I've got a feeling this book is probably going to break my heart, but I will report back in a future reading wrap up. I do want to be filming longer videos because I love watching other people's 20, 30, 40-minute videos. But because I'm so used to doing short form content on TikTok and Instagram, I'm finding it really hard to adjust to YouTube because in my previous videos, it felt like I was yapping for forever. And then when I edited the videos, they were like 7 to 10 minutes long, and I'd rather them be like 20 minutes long because I want to make videos that I would enjoy watching. So hopefully this one was a little bit more interesting. And if you have any ideas of videos you would like me to do, please let me know in the comments because I'm very new to the world of BookTube and just getting used to it here. But thank you for sticking around and thank you for supporting. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble, and I'll see